Hello everyone, this is Wilmer Pereira and this is the S624 Quality Management. This video will cover the instructions for the hypothesis test homework. So the exercise, we are going to follow the 5 steps that are listed on the slide. Step number 1, develop hypothesis test. Step number 2, determine the applicable hypothesis test, gather the data, perform the test, and make a decision. So what is the test telling us? The first step, so this deck is the one that you are going to use to submit your homework. So on slide number 2, you have to write what is the general hypothesis idea that you have. And then out of that, you will write what is the null hypothesis and what is the alternative hypothesis statements. So these are the 2 statements. So remember, the null is the status quo, which means like there is no difference, right? So you are saying there is no statistical significant difference between the average likes per post of posts with these characteristics versus posts that don't have these characteristics. And the alternative hypothesis is going to be there is a statistical significant difference between posts with these characteristics and posts without these characteristics. And let me rephrase it again. Alternative hypothesis is that there is a statistical significant difference between the number of likes per post with these characteristics and the number of likes per post with these characteristics. Okay, so those should be the structure of your null and alternative hypothesis. Then once you have defined that, you have to go and identify the strata. For example, you can have like that can be posts with hashtags versus posts without no hashtags. So you are the hypothesis here is that post with hashtags get an average likes per post that is higher than posts without hashtags. And then you have to go back to your data and gather the observed frequencies, and with that you will populate the matrix, right? So you have the strata. In this case, at the top will be posts with hashtags, and the strata 2 is posts without hashtags. And then you will count how many posts are considered defects. The one for strata 1, how many posts are good for the strata 1, and how many posts are defects for the strata 2, and how many of them are good for the strata 2. And then you have to look back when we define defects, right? Which is posts that have less than a number of likes that we already set up when we were doing process capability. And then once you have your observed data, then you are going to calculate for each cell your expected frequencies with that formula there. And then you are going to calculate the degrees of freedom. Most of you will be doing a 2x2 matrix, which means that the degrees of freedom is going to be equal to 1. But if you have anything other than a 2x2, you need to use the degrees of freedom formula to calculate the value. And then with that information now, you can calculate the chi-square for each of the cells based on this formula and sum all the values, and then you will get your chi-square calc. And then finally with that, you will get the chi-square critical based on the degrees of freedom that you have. So most of you is going to be 1, and then alpha is going to be constant. So you will use 3.841, and depending if your calc is higher or less, and you will be able to write your conclusion. Okay, so those are the steps to complete the hypothesis test homework. Hopefully that was helpful. And if you have any questions, please send me an email before Thursday evening. And the homework is due on Sunday.